Okay, so from what you've been telling me, the main reason that you had sought out therapy was to talk about the conflicts you're having at home between you and your wife and parenting your two boys. That a lot of the times when they're roughhousing or running around the house, you just say boys will be boys and there's no disciplining, even when one of them gets hurt, that, brush it off, they're a boy, it's okay. Whereas your wife kind of wants to talk about it more or, actually start some discipline with timeouts or taking privileges away. So that whole thought of, it's okay, they're a boy, they're meant to roughhouse. When did you start thinking of that, or?
Well, much like I have two boys, I grew up with boys, so having two brothers, that's kind of what I was raised on. So everybody kind of roughhoused, and it was okay. It wasn't really disciplined, and it wasn't a big deal if someone got hurt. You were just supposed to kind of brush it off.
Yeah, so that's just kind of how you grew up, so that's how you want to raise your boys now.
Yeah, I mean, I think I turned out all right.
Okay. So what is your wife saying? Like, how does she see it?
Well, I think she's trying to be too strict about it, and I think she's just really trying to set too many boundaries to where they don't interact enough, in a physical way.
Okay.
So, if they do play with each other, I think that's great.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes feelings get hurt, sometimes, boo-boos happen, but
Yeah.
but I think at the end of the day, they're still going to love each other, much like I did with my brothers.
Sure. So, can you tell me of time when you were outside of your house with your brother or outside, maybe at school? What the situation was like? Was it okay to roughhouse with friends at school,
Oh,
or?
well, probably not at school because, uh, that was a little bit more disciplined, I guess you could say there, because nobody wanted to get in trouble for roughhousing there. But
Mhm.
outside of school, if it was playing kickball or playing sports or yeah, I mean that's the nature of hanging out with your friends when you're a boy. I mean you gotta be a boy. You gotta do
Okay.
boy stuff.
For sure. So, what about your son? So, say one of your sons was in school, first, second grade, and they had gotten a fight with another boy. Um, how would you discipline that back at your house?
Well, I would want to know the reasons, certainly, for why it escalated into that type of a physical, confrontation. So, I would want there to be some sort of verbal understanding that you don't start fights. Maybe if you're helping out a friend or trying to stop someone else from getting hurt, that's maybe acceptable. But being aggressive in that way towards someone just because you can't express your emotions, I don't think that's right.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if you're maybe coming to the defense of a friend, and if it gets physical, then you have to be able to defend yourself.
So you wouldn't use the excuse, well, boys are just boys. Though. So if you were talking to the principal, like, what would
I,
you say?
I probably wouldn't say it in that scenario. That's
Okay.
that's that's more so, if it's an altercation like that, that's more intent to hurt someone,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not acceptable.
So you're able to separate that deep-seated, thoughts in your head from childhood about boys will be boys. You're able to separate it
Right.
outside of the house, or
Oh,
certain
absolutely,
circumstances.
absolutely. I
Okay.
mean, there's got to be boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
and for me personally, those boundaries would probably be where's that line between playful and hurtful. Are you trying to be hurtful to physically hurt someone, or in the act of playing, whatever you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
does someone get hurt, someone get a boo boo, is it accidental?
That's a good way to look at it. So when you're at your house and say your boys are doing rough housing or playing,
Yeah.
is that something, those thoughts, is that something you could start to incorporate? If somebody gets hurt,
Oh yeah. Well,
was that intentional or?
right. You try to figure out, what was the intent. Maybe if a toy was taken and then someone got physical because that toy was taken, I think that's out of anger, and I don't think that's right. If someone happens to bump into someone accidentally, or someone gets stepped on, accidentally, that's just
Mm-hmm.
in the act of playing. I don't think there's any malicious intent there. So
Okay.
there's got to be that line.
All right, so maybe this is a conversation you could have with your wife that yes, boys will be boys. However, I can distinguish, where that line is.
Yeah, well, I think she's got a fair point. I mean, she's a lot smarter than me,
Mm-hmm.
so I can understand that she would have some fair points on that.
Okay. Well, it sounds like this is the type of things that you guys would need to talk about now, like moving forward, so that she can understand where you're coming from, and you can kind of see now
Right.
her other side, that where she wants to look at it.
Yeah.
That way, they don't go to school and they don't start pushing friends
Oh,
around
sure.
and think that it's all right because, well, Dad said it was all right at home.
Right. Right. Yeah. As long as they understand, that line between playing and again getting malicious or hurtful. It's as long as they understand that there is a line, and if you cross that line, there's got to be consequences.
And who do you think's responsible for teaching that line?
I'd say it's both parents.
Okay.
It's I mean, maybe if they just happen to look at dad because, I got, let's say it from their minds, I got brothers, my dad's got brothers.
Mm-hmm.
How does he interact with, or how did he or does he interact with his siblings? So maybe they look closer towards that, but it's it's a team effort as far as parents are concerned.
Okay, so I think we've come a long way.
Yeah.
Through therapy, kind of just getting another perspective, and do you feel like you've understood a little bit more how you were thinking it, and
Yeah.
maybe how your wife was seeing it
And
too?
I feel a lot better.
Okay.
Just verbally expressing my feelings.
Okay. And have you really talked about it out loud before like that? Like maybe
Probably
where it started?
Not. Probably not. Maybe I just brushed it off too quickly,
Mm-hmm.
and I was a little bit too too quick to just dismiss her opinion,
Mm-hmm.
which was wrong.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So now when you go back home and you kind of have a game plan or a little bit more of how you can handle the next situation, and
Definitely.
maybe have a sit down with your boys too and start drawing that line at home.
Yeah.
That way they know what to do and how to act at school too.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks for coming
Thank
today.
you. You have a good day.
You too.